Hello and welcome to the series where I take ruined model trains. This Loco is absolutely filthy and try to put them back on track. If I succeed, they'll work again. Of course it's going to work. Oh, that's purring beautifully like a little cat. But if I fail, they'll be left to the mercy of the evil scrap man. The Time-O-Matic machine will give me a limited time to repair each engine. If a Loco still doesn't work when the time runs out, the scrap man will come knocking. Welcome to Salvage or Scrap. Let's get cracking then and introduce those long-suffering Locos who have sadly run out of steam. So I've still got 4 engines left to go, and as always they're in varying states of disrepair. Today's patient though is a 1981 mainline Great Western 57XX Pannier tank, which I purchased for £21. And look at this, it's even still got its instructions, so I will just carefully pass those over to the scrapman to read, because I don't do instructions. Okay, let's have a closer look and find out exactly what I'm dealing with this time. And this Loco is in a completely wretched state. Look at this, it is filthy and it's covered in what looks like mould as well, so I'm a bit worried about that. Most of the visible metalwork is just covered in rust, so that goes for some of the cab detailing, the handrails, so I'm guessing this Loco has been damp, which certainly doesn't bode very well mechanically. And what makes this even worse for me is that I recognise this model. Bachmann have produced this much more recently in part of their Railway Children set, and so it's absolutely horrifying to see one right here in such a terrible state. Having said that, the wheels and the coupling rods actually do look fine, there's no rust on those, so let's find out if the thing actually works or not. Let's initiate that power test. Okay, so amazingly, it appears that this is not completely dead. Now it's very, very laboured, it's emitting a deathly screech as well, so it's certainly not looking too good. Right, how long have I got for this restoration? Time-O-Matic, if you will. 46 minutes, it's saying. Okay, well that's not too bad, that's quite a long time. And any special requests from the Train-O-Matic today? Must look like new. Okay, so I'm guessing that means no more mould then, and no more rust as well. Okay, so it's a good sign that this Loco runs. That suggests that there will be some hope. However, the fact that this looks so incredibly filthy and rusty is a real problem. So this calls for a true strip down today. So the first job is going to be to get the body off, get the details off the body. I'm going to rip those handrails off if I can. I'll deal with those separately. Get the body downstairs, get it scrubbed, get all that mould or whatever it is off, and then leave it to dry for the rest of that 46 minutes. And then of course it's just a case of trying to improve the mechanism, trying to improve the rust on the handrails and such, and just fixing everything up so that this Loco works and looks good as new again. This should be a challenge, 3/4 of an hour. Let's get started. I'll go and prepare, fingers crossed. Don't forget my rule that says I'm not allowed to go shopping for any replacement parts. I can only use what I already have in my stores, and I can also 3D print brand new parts, but they also must be printed within the time limit. Yikes, I do not feel good about this one at all. 46 minutes to make this thing look good as new? Yeah, right. Anyway, let's give this a try and try to put this train back on the tracks. 46 minutes in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Strip down is the name of the game to start with, beginning with the body. Alright, yes, it's out. Cool, so I'll put the chassis to one side just for now. Okay, so the first thing is going to be to gently pry off these handrails without destroying them. So now I'm attempting the gentle removal of all of the handrails and those other rusty parts which need cleaning. I can't risk leaving these fitted while I clean the body because I think I'm just going to damage them, and they also need to be treated for rust, of course. Okay, that came off easy. That one's pretty small, so that one's going to be easy to lose. That means I can go ahead, I think, and go clean this body. I'm going to be doing this as roughly as I dare, because obviously I'm too delicate, it's going to take forever. And as you can see, the body cleaning is much easier without those small details fitted. Okay, I think that's all I've got time for. Let's do this. Let's get some fast flowing cold water and rinse. Okay, that'll have to do. And then this can have a good probably 20 to 30 minutes drying in front of the fan. Okay, that is looking amazing. It's still very wet though, so I'm going to have to get my heater cranked up. There he goes. Okay, I'll come back and check in with that body again in just a minute. Time now to look at the chassis. This has been unused for many years and the performance was pretty dire, so there is lots of work to do here. Here we go, hoping there aren't any quartering issues with this. Okay, there we go. Let's pull the wheel set out. Okay, so we do have a slightly split axle there, but it seems to still be in one piece, which is good. Wow, the gear train looks a mess. I've got about 40 minutes to do this. Do I take the chassis to pieces? I think I'm leaning towards it, folks. Right. I've made a very bold decision. I've decided I'm going to totally dismantle the chassis. This could be disastrous if it proves difficult to get back together, but this may be the only way to properly overhaul the chassis. These screws literally hold the two halves of the chassis together, so you've got to get them all out before you can take the chassis apart. There's this piece on the top, like a weight. That probably needs to come out. Alright, let's do this. Split chassis a la split. Whoa, that's not good. Making things even worse, there's been a gear spillage, and I didn't see where these various gears came from, so I'm going to have to guess where those went, but I'll cross that bridge a little bit later on. Time to clean up the chassis then. Let's do this. It's going to get messy, I'll warn you. Let's do it. This is a pretty dirty chassis, and it's not the easiest or fastest task to clean it with cotton buds, but I think it looks pretty good now, and hopefully without all that debris all over it, the mechanism should be able to run a little bit better. So now I've got to clean up the gears. Now I've started with this small gear because I can remember where this one came from, and that one came from there. And there's this one, mummy gear, I guess you'd call this one. And I'm guessing that goes on somewhere like this. Okay. And then you've got daddy gear right here, who is a different colour for some reason. Why is daddy gear black? I don't know. Treading on thin ice there. Right, so that is clean as well, and that I'm guessing is going to fit on something like that. Amazingly, it looks like I have figured out the location of each gear first time. Hopefully I won't find out later on that that was wrong. Now let's have a look at the motor herself. This is going to be interesting. There's the spring. Pleased to say, despite how rusty the outside of the model was, the springs and everything aren't that bad. They actually look fine, which is great. That means the motor might not be in a terrible shape after all. Great. So let's clean those brushes. How long have I got, Time-O-Matic? What was that, 34 minutes? Yikes. All right, well that's good. Things are progressing, to say how much there is to do on this one. Let's break into this motor now. There's sort of like a red paste that's put on these gears to show whether or not the motor has been opened. This one never has. I've just broken that seal for the first time in 30-40 years. So this is the first time that anybody has seen the insides of this motor since it left the factory. Isn't that crazy? The armature looks pretty ditched, but I can clean that up without any issues, which really isn't that bad looking. Although it's making a real mess on my cotton bud. Right, I really want this chassis to work in 10 minutes time. So when the Time-O-Matic shows 22 minutes, I want the thing working, because there's still a long way to go cosmetically after that point. And now it's time to reassemble. So I need to put that little washer on there. Good. One last look at the motor housing to make sure it is nice and clean. I hope the magnets are okay. Are they bad? No, they're fine. Those are fine. Great. Right. into the motor housing we go. There it is. These are finicky old motors. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm going to spend a long time trying to troubleshoot this one when it's all back together. But hey, think positive. Right, time to reinstall the brushes and the springs. And this is so much more difficult when you're rushing. So much more difficult. Steady. One false move and that spring goes pinging across the room and I'll never see it again. I cannot let that happen today. Please don't let that happen today. There. The brush should be safe now. So you have to be really careful lubricating these. You can put plenty of oil on the backside, but you want just a tiny amount on the front, like that. Okay, let's give the motor some power. We are 28 minutes left to go, and I've still yet to test the motor. So here we go, a little bit of power to the motor. It's running really nicely. Okay, that's beautiful. With the motor serviced and tested, you can see it's working really, really nicely. So now I've got to turn to reassembly, which might be a challenge with this one. Okay, so that goes on like so. And then there are these little clips that go in like this, presumably. It's a really nasty design, this. Seriously. I think that one faces down, to guess. And a little bit of my choice of lubricant on the gears. And that's all I got time for, I'm afraid. It's a real devil to get all of this lined up. But I think I've done it. There you go. Now that the chassis is back together, it's time to power it up and test it. If any of the gears are in the wrong place, or if the two parts of the chassis aren't put together properly, it'll mean another time-consuming disassembly. Please work. It's working. Oh, thank God for that. And it seems to be working like amazingly well as well. That is awesome. All right. The axles, the wheel set, that is the next thing to deal with. The wheel set is utterly filthy, but the axles must be clean in order for the Loco to pick up power. Well, I'm getting through so many cotton buds. I think this episode will win the title for the most cotton buds used. Right, I think that will have to do. Right, excuse me one moment. I'm just going to turn around my body. Turn around my body. That sounded awfully kinky. I apologise for that. I'm also using a small dose of Vaseline on the bearings. So that will lubricate the axles but still allow current to flow, that's the idea. This way. Great. Right, there we go, that's 22 minutes. The chassis is supposed to be running at this point. Any time that I use now on the chassis is eating away at the time I've got to make the body look a bit better. Right, so which way does this go on? I'm guessing this way. Time then for the final chassis test, and I am feeling confident. It's going. Awesome. It's actually going really nicely. I've never seen a mainline Loco run this nicely. It's actually running really, really well. Okay, clean the wheels. Well, cleaning the wheels with the cotton buds just isn't cutting it, so it's time to bring out the big guns. Awesome. Oh, I love doing that, man. Favourite job. Alright, the wheels should now be shiny clean. Okay, chassis is done. Let's put that to one side. Time really is running out now, so I've got to quickly de-rust those separately fitted handrails. So this is the infinitesimally small handrail that goes on top of the cab, I believe it was. If I lose this piece, it's gone. You know, if this piece gets away, I will never see it again. So I'm going to hold it carefully in the pliers and I'm going to clean it up. Right, that's clean. That looks better. That looks good as new. Just like one of my goals for this. Right, let's grab this handrail and let's start to clean it. This is going to be difficult. Okay, so it's a rough job. I haven't put the time into this. I perhaps should have done to get it looking really good, but it's as good as I'm going to be able to get it given the time. So yes, most of the rust is now gone from that piece, which is great. Now that the handrails are looking a bit better, it's time to reapply them to the model. Wow, this body is totally transformed. Look at that, it looks way, way better. Right, let me put the handrail from the cab back in place, because that one was one of the rusty ones. Probably needs a bit of glue actually. How long have I got, Timer-matic? Well, we've just dropped below 14 minutes left. Okay, I'm going to glue this in with the needle. How best to reattach these handrails? There are going to be some of the links missing, that's for sure. Okay, it's looking good. So I'm wondering if I can literally just solder this at the other end. And this isn't going too well, to be honest with you. The solder job I tried didn't hold, and I haven't been able to glue the broken holders, but there just isn't time to do a better job. Right, so the body is now looking pretty darn good. I won't show you the other side, how about that? Yes, I will. There you go. So the handrail is now rust free. It doesn't look amazing, I'll give you that, but it looks better than it did, which is something. Let's go for the final reassembly then. The couplings have got to go back in place, so have the body screws, and that should be job done. Wow, I am very, very surprised that this one turned out half decent. Bit disappointed in the handrails. I sort of knew I wouldn't be able to do a good job of that in such a short time, but I think for the most part this does look like new, and that was my aim. Okay, that looks so much better than it did before. Wow, I almost can't believe that. Okay, time. Look at that, I had 6 minutes 15 seconds left to go. That really isn't too bad. So there we go, it is looking much, much better than I expected. Not 100% happy with those handrails, like I say, however, I'm hopeful that the thing will work. Let's take it back to the workshop for a close look, and let's give it a test. There is the patient safe and sound back in the workshop again, ready for the all-important final inspection. Remember though, here is how the locomotive started off. It was absolutely filthy, and it was even caked in what looked like white mould. I was quite concerned about that. The handrails in all of the different places were covered in rust, which didn't look very good, and to top it all off, the performance was very, very sorry indeed. The Loco was almost able to stagger forwards very slightly, but the performance was absolutely terrible. And here it is now, less than 3/4 of an hour later. As you can see, there is now no sign of that disgusting mould, and the lovely detail on this old mainline model is able to shine through. The handrails and such are now free with rust. I don't think I've managed to make this look like new, I'll be honest with you, because some of the holders for the handrails are not fitted correctly and I didn't have time to fix them up properly, so I do think I failed in the extra challenge. However, I do think the lack of rust now on the different parts is a huge improvement for this Loco. So that's great and all, but is this Loco going to be a decent runner now? To find out, let's initiate that final power test. Oh yes, look at that. Speed up to 50. Oh, that is so much better. I am really, really happy with that. I do think this is the best I've ever seen one of these run, and to say I did this in such a rushed way, I'm pretty happy with that. It's now a much, much better runner than it was before. That is a pretty fantastic result. I can now officially say that that Loco has been successfully salvaged, and it is safe from that evil scrapman. So let's take a look at the leaderboard of repair times. Yes, unfortunately, I was a little bit slower on this salvage. It was a big job, don't get me wrong, but it is in 4th place right there. So the only thing left to do now is to send this lovely Loco back out into the world, back onto the railway. And if you are interested in owning today's locomotive, bids are now open on eBay, so you can check that out down in the description if you'd like to. For now though, job done. I'll see you next time on Salvage or Scrap.